Hello and welcome to Week 3, Lesson A. The lesson is called Introduction to Contemplate, then Calculate. You've already tried this a little bit with me when I asked you to do the coin problem last week in Lesson B. So it's a similar activity where I'm going to have you look at some pictures and tell me what you notice. Our goal? Use mathematical structure to count visual sequences more efficiently. So we're introducing you to sequences and rate of change. Today, in your lesson, we're going to do a warm up. We're going to do 2 contemplate and calculates, and then you'll have a reflection at the end of the lesson. Today's warm up that I want you to work on, I want you to describe the similarities and differences you see between the 2 sequences. This is sequence A and sequence B. What do you notice that is the same between the 2 sequences? What do you know that is different between the 2 sequences? So here, when you took a look at this, you should have noticed that sequence A had 1, 2, 3, 4 terms, and so did sequence B. If you go ahead and count these out, you can see that there were 2 circles in term 1, 4 circles in term 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 circles in term 3. And when we have a sequence, sometimes we can use these numbers to predict what's going to happen in term 4 without counting, but we could verify by saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's see what happens in sequence B. We start out with 4 terms, but in the first term there are 3 circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 circles. This is 9 circles, and then we would have 12 circles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And you can chunk it. You can see 6 and 6. You can see the pattern. Add 3 circles each time, and you can see that right here in the picture, how 3 are getting chunked on the end every single time. Adding 3 is what we call the rate of change. Let's go back and take a look at sequence A. Right here, I would add on every single time 2 more circles. Okay? So right here, you can see the chunk of 2 circles being added onto the end to the previous sequence. So this had a rate of change of +2. And this had a rate of change of +3. So the rates of change, how is it changing each time you go to the next sequence, is different. It had 4 terms. That was the same. I bet you some of you said that both had circles, so that's the same. And so those are some of the new vocabulary words that I wanted you to notice. Okay. We also have that this is a sequence. A sequence is a pattern. That changes, and then you can use it to predict future values in the sequence. Also, when you have what's the first term, the second term, the third term, the fourth term, that's what we call the independent variable. It's what I can change. I can change the terms. And then the results, what are the numbers in the pattern? That's what we call the dependent variable. So the terms were the independent variable, and the circles, the number of circles, dependent variable. This first activity is contemplate, then calculate. I'm going to ask you to notice something in a picture. I'm going to ask you to find a calculation shortcut to find an answer. I want you to share your strategy, and then I want you to reflect on your learning in this activity. When I ask you the question, what do you notice? I want you to try to find what might be mathematically important. So I want you to look for details that are related to math. Here is your picture. What do you notice? Now what I want you to do is I want you to find a calculation shortcut. I would like you to find the number of small white squares in your head without counting all of the squares. Be prepared to explain why your strategy works. Now we will reflect on our learning. I have 2 prompts here. I'm going to ask you the second one. You can find strategies for counting by doing what? This is our second contemplate then calculate activity. And remember, I'm going to practice looking for shortcuts using what you know about the way sequences or patterns work. Why? To think like mathematicians, to find calculation shortcuts using mathematical structure. And remember, when we try, we grow our brain. I'm first going to ask you to notice on a picture. Then I'm going to show you the picture again and ask you to find a shortcut to an answer. I'm going to ask you to share your strategy, and then I'm going to ask you to reflect on your learning. What do you notice? When I show you the next picture, what do you think might be mathematically important? What do you notice? Now what I want you to do is find a calculation shortcut. Find the number of white squares in term 4 in your head. Be prepared to explain why your strategy works. So what I want you to do, you'll see term 1, term 2, and term 3. If I were to make term 4, how many white squares would it have? Tell me how I could find this answer without counting. Finally, our reflection on learning. I'm going to go ahead with prompt 2 again. You can find strategies for counting terms of sequences by doing what? What did you do in this activity as a strategy? Here is your final activity for this lesson. How many circles in this picture? I want you to find the circles without counting.